clash between the Indian and the Chinese armies in Tawang, and the politics that's broken out around this confrontation at the Yangtze sector off the line of actual control is my top focus on the Newstrack tonight.
PLA troops bashed, kicked, chased. Alert Indian Army surprised Reds. Army puts Chinese post on notice. Sharp, aggressive lesson to China. Full picture only on India Today. Big focus on Newstrack.
Here's a quick look at the headlines I'm tracking tonight. Politics rages over the India-China clash. Congress accuses the Modi government of hiding facts. Home Minister Amit Shah hits back, claims the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation took funds from China. India Today accesses satellite images of the likely site of the clash in Tawang. Images show Chinese build-up and India's counter along the Arunachal border. Crypto boss Sam Bankman-Fried, who went bankrupt, arrested in Bahamas. The FTX CEO lost nearly $10 billion in 3 days. Verified Twitter users to lose blue ticks soon. Elon Musk says verification status was handed out in a corrupt way. The world of football reaches the business end as Argentina take on Croatia in the first semis of the World Cup tonight. It's the clash of the big guns, Messi versus Luka Modric. India Today is the only news channel that has the real story of the Tawang clash, the story of how Chinese troops were marched into misery, chased, bashed and kicked. The PLA troops were surprised by an alert Indian army, overwhelmed and panicked. The Chinese troops ran back. India Today gets you the full story.
9th December 2022, the India-China clash in Yangtze Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. But this time, bully Beijing was schooled with full aggression. Overwhelmed and overpowered, the Chinese were chased away after a 25-minute clash. India Today has the full picture, the 17 steps of what actually happened.
This time, the Indian army had intelligence about the gradual Chinese build-up and the Chinese move towards the higher reaches dominated by India. India had taken adequate measures in time. Not only were a larger number of troops deployed, but reinforcements were also called in. So the moment the Chinese soldiers came, they were overwhelmed by superior number of Indian troops and also the fact that Indian troops had better training and tactics for 17,000 feet altitude.
Indian troops rapidly summoned reinforcements that immediately surrounded and pounced on the Chinese. In at least 2 pockets, Chinese soldiers were beaten up badly and they began to retreat. Indian troops chased the Chinese troops. Some Chinese were even temporarily captured. A group of about 50 Indian Army troops then aggressively approached the Chinese post, after which the Chinese fired warning shots in the air, totally unnerved. Indian troops stayed put on the Chinese side as a show of force and issued a warning, after which they returned back to the Indian side.
When fists flew, some Chinese soldiers tried to retreat. Their reinforcements came in. According to our sources, and this is unconfirmed, some Chinese soldiers were temporarily held captive. But then the Indian soldiers also chased the Chinese soldiers back to their camp. The Chinese thought they would be able to overwhelm or browbeat the Indians, but they were in for a rude shock. With Shiv Arur and camera person Yogendra Singh in Tawang sector, Arunachal Pradesh, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
At Yangtze, Indian troops were fully prepared. India Today has exclusively accessed satellite images that not only show the Chinese build-up in the Tawang sector, but also give a picture of India's preparedness. The Chinese tried to get a 17,000 feet vantage point on the day of the clash, but failed. Ankit Kumar, who heads India Today's open source intelligence team, with this story.
In the icy heights of the Himalayas, a deadly clash between Indian and Chinese soldiers along the line of actual control. On December the 9th, in Arunachal Pradesh's Tawang sector, Chinese soldiers entered into Indian territory with a clear bid to alter the status quo. India Today has gotten you the clearest and most accurate visual representation of the likely flashpoint at Yangtze in Tawang. We've accessed high-resolution Planet Labs PBC satellite images from the day of the reported clash. And here's what you can visibly see. 1. A new Chinese road winding through the mountains can clearly be seen.
This is a high-resolution satellite picture captured by Planet Labs. It was taken exactly on the day when the clashes between Indian and Chinese troops happened. It all started with construction of a military village north to the LAC. As you can see, this is the new military village. There has been work undergoing for past several months now. Leading this village is a new wide road. As you can see, this is the new wider Chinese road that connects the Chinese military village to the forward locations right in front of Thangla Pass. Now what we have here on 9 December is a sizable presence. This is most important. The sizable presence of Indian troops just to ensure that what happened in June 2020 in Galwan would not repeat in December 2022 in Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh.
Now let's decode for you what these images confirm. The Chinese side tried to get a 17,000-foot vantage point on the day of the clash, but failed miserably. In the vicinity towards the east are the snow-capped strategic high peaks that go as high as 17,000 feet that many believe the Chinese army wanted to take control of. These uninhabited high points provide a vantage point to monitor developments towards the Tawang side in India. A new wider road leading towards the line of actual control and ending with a post-like location near the Thangla Pass can be seen, but did not show a Galwan-like overwhelming presence of Chinese military vehicles and encampments seen in Ladakh in June 2020. While India continues to have a permanent position near this location, new forward deployments likely anticipating PLA intrusions can be seen in this available imagery. Indian forces on the ground this time completely thwarted China's bid to grab Indian territory, and despite the terrain challenges, Indian personnel on ground ensured every Chinese soldier who stepped foot on Indian soil was pushed back with aggression and a warning. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Make no mistake, the Tawang clash was in no way like the Galwan face-off of 2020. While Indian forces were ambushed by China in Galwan, this time they had ground intelligence and were fully prepared for an escalation. There were no casualties in Tawang. The Indian side suffered only minor injuries.
India dominating on the icy heights of Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh. This time beating China at its own game, thwarting yet another bid to land grab. The Indian Army's upper hand can be explained via these high-resolution satellite images from the very clash spot in Tawang. Accessed exclusively by India Today, the images from the day of the clash show that Tawang was no Galwan, the other clash that it is being compared with. In June 2020, India was outnumbered in Ladakh's Galwan Valley by sheer numbers of intruding Chinese troops. In Galwan, India lost men despite inflicting serious casualties on the marauding Chinese after being caught unawares. But 2 years down the line in Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh, Indian forces were more than prepared, with advanced ground intelligence about possible Chinese escalation and readying a counter-ambush by quick deployment of reinforcements. So when the Chinese troops intruded, they were met with a ferocious fight back. This time it was the turn of the Chinese army to be outnumbered and overwhelmed. While in Galwan, Chinese outnumbered Indians, the tables turned completely in Tawang. In Galwan, China had ambushed the Indian side, but in Tawang, intelligence alerts ensured India was ready. While in Galwan, India lost 20 men and China at least 17 men, in Tawang, just 9 Indians were hurt compared to 22 Chinese. In Galwan, Chinese armored vehicles provided backup, but there was no such luck for China in Tawang. While in Galwan, Chinese men had intruded, it was the turn of Indians to barge back into China in Tawang. In Galwan, troops from both sides were taken captive, but in Tawang, India captured 5 Chinese soldiers before releasing them a short while later during the skirmish. China was the aggressor in Galwan with stone pelting. In Tawang, it was Chinese verbal abuse and stone hurling which caused the trouble. Since Galwan, India has boosted troop deployments and boosted border infrastructure, including intelligence gathering, learning valuable lessons on how to defeat Chinese misadventures and also preempt them, thereby ending up giving the Chinese army another proverbial bloody nose. With Ankit Kumar in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what happens next? Was this a one-off confrontation in the Yangtze area of Tawang? Could this potentially spiral into something bigger? Those satellite images seem to suggest a planned build-up by the Chinese on their side of the line of actual control, very close to our perceived sense of where the border really runs from. Joining us for different kinds of perspective on the current state of play between the Indian and the Chinese armies, I've got Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, one of India's leading national security experts. For a perspective on what the Chinese social media is saying, I've got Sai Kiran Kannan. He's part of the India Today open source intelligence team, contributes to us quite extensively and is looking at what is being said in Weibo and elsewhere. We've got from the BJP, its national spokesperson Sanju Verma. For a perspective from the Congress, we've got Syed Nasir Hussain, Member of Parliament and national spokesperson. For a perspective on the thinking or the apparent thinking in Beijing, we've got Andrew K.P. Luing, who's a top China strategist and analyst. I want to go across to General Atta Hasnain first, because from what we've gathered, based on what top officials at the Ministry of Defense, Army headquarters have told us, that this seems in some ways potentially linked to China expressing objection to Operation Yudhabhyas, an Indo-US joint military exercise at Oli on the Uttarakhand hills, saying that this violates the 1993-1996 bordering agreements. We've just started off the G20 presidency. Is this linked to larger strategic factors in your view, or was this confrontation just a tactical ground face-off between two army patrols and the kind of thing that can happen anytime? Or on the basis of the information available, you think the Chinese were up to no good and it's good that we've been able to repulse them? General Hasnain.
Rahul, first of all, thank you for having me on this show. One aspect I will utilize immediately, one statement of yours, which you said that the Chinese would probably be responding to something that the Indians have done, in the sense that this is something out of the blue which has just come about like that. I would say this is a very deliberate act, primarily is coming from the fact that India's strategic confidence has always seemed to be rising in the last couple of years. And this is not to the liking of the Chinese. Now, after Galwan, we have seen the manner in which this whole crisis has been handled in the last 2.5 years or so. The Indian media, the Indian military, politically, in every sphere otherwise. It seems that the Chinese obviously are unhappy about it, and they consider the Indian actions as that of defiance, virtual defiance. This is something that the Chinese feel that they have the right to dominate Asia. India is the second-rate, second-best power, and they think that India will probably have to pay obeisance to them as far as the geopolitics of Asia are concerned. Now, Yudha Vyas particularly sent home this message that India was not willing to play ball with China on this issue. This is a clear sovereignty issue. It's a cooperation with the United States. It's a choice of its own strategic independence. This was a clear message. What the Chinese, I think, are looking at is something similar to April-May 2020, when the Wuhan virus was labeled on them. Here again, you're finding the virus once again very, very well live and active in China itself. There are internal problems that are there in China. Divergence from them, moving away from them, taking attention away. That is also one of the intents.
Let me get Andrew KP Lewing to respond to it, that there have been mass protests in multiple cities across China. Xi Jinping's authority and that of the Communist Party being challenged by young students in a manner that hasn't been seen since Tiananmen Square, and according to many, even before that. There haven't been these mass protests. The number of infections rising, the economy under pressure. And therefore, Mr. Lewing, is this an attempt, according to you, by the Communist Party and the PLA, which reports to the Communist Party, to try and divert attention from domestic turmoil and distress?
Well, this is a gross over-exaggeration. Because according to the New York-based Elderman Trust Barometer, EDELMAN, Elderman Trust Barometer based in New York, and they look around the world to see to what extent people support the government in response to various issues, including the pandemic. China came up on top. And that's the survey of countries around the world. And
that was done before the protests. You do that survey now, the results could be different. There have been protests in Shanghai, Beijing, and elsewhere, sir.
As far as these protests are concerned, of course, after about 3 years, a number of people's patience is beginning to wear thin. But this is only a very, very minor minority. And since the government's reaction, these protests have died down. But this is all played up by the Western media and by media, including in India, for example. There is no, even in addition to the Elderman Trust survey, the Harvard Kennedy School, for example, last year also found that the Chinese government is the government best supported by its people, compared with a lot of democratic countries, including the United States, multiple ranks above the United States. Because the lives of the Chinese people have been
So the protests happened in the last few weeks. You're talking about studies done much earlier, which are quite tangential to what's happening on the ground. Was this an attempt by the Chinese army to divert tensions from domestic problems, Mr. Lewing? He decided to cut that call and leave. Well, this is just, he's quoting data from the past, data compiled much before domestic turmoil exploded in China. Make no mistake, this is a big issue. Protests in India are commonplace. Protests in China are not. That's a big factor. Sai Kiran Kannan has been tracking reactions on Chinese social media. Give our viewers, Sai, a sense of what have been the kind of reactions you've picked up.
Yes, Rahul. So ever since, we've also been covering the recent protests in China, and I think we also did a story on how heterogeneous the overall, situation was. It was not just about one specific aspect where protests were being held, not just about COVID, but, variety of issues. Similarly, ever since those protests broke out, we have been tracking the social media reactions in China, and especially after, the Indian media especially reported this December 9th incident at Tawang. So there have been range of reactions from, Chinese netizens. Some of them have been in terms of why again, it's the Indian media which has, come out with news reports, and why none of the Chinese media agency that had picked up. So so even the social media posts, they were just quoting Indian media and, some of the Russian media agencies. Secondly, we've also been getting a lot of heat being expressed by the netizens on the Chinese government for obvious lack of transparency. And there were many trackbacks to, what happened post Galwan, where Indian government immediately released a number of casualties, and, we were very transparent. But, CCP, Chinese government, only announced their casualties months later. Even then, it was about the pictures of tombstones being, released on social media. That is when the Chinese government officially agreed, to the number of casualties. And there has also been very interesting comments on the use of, I won't say child soldiers, but, really young soldiers who are, there only to, get enough money back to their families, and, they want to possibly pursue undergrad or postgrad, education later on. So this has been one of the very, very interesting reactions from netizens, because they are of the opinion that, when you put people there without experience, they're just not, going to have the right spirit, when it comes to a situation like this. They're not going to show the right spirit in taking on the enemy.
So very clearly, a lot of chatter around this clash in Tawang on Chinese social media. I want to go across to the BJP spokesperson Sanju Verma. The opposition today and going forward as well seems determined to do a proper discussion on what's happening at the line of control. They seem to think the government's hiding facts. The Home Minister spoke first, then we had the Defence Minister speak in Parliament. The opposition doesn't seem satisfied with the statements. Nasir Hussain, the opposition would like a much longer debate. Let's start from Sanju Verma.
Rahul, let's be very clear that the Modi government has never shied away from serious discussion on the floor of the Parliament. Today also, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Mr. Prahlad Joshi, categorically informed the opposition that the government is willing to take any questions during question hour. And 12 p.m. Noon was the time that was fixed for Rajnath Singh to take questions from the opposition. Now, I don't understand this shoot and scoot approach of the opposition. You demand a discussion, the government of the day agrees that a discussion is on the cards, and then you make reckless allegations and simply, create a ruckus leading to adjournment of the House. It is like suffering from a Stockholm syndrome. I will also say this, that if you look at the statements given by the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, and the Defence Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, one thing which is very clear is that while an attempt to transgress by the PLA was made, it was thwarted very firmly and resolutely by the Indian side. हमने Chinese PLA के अतिक्रमण की कोशिश को रोका और उनको मजबूर किया कि वो अपनी ओरिजिनल पोजीशंस पर जाएं. This is the statement made by Rajnath Singh, which leaves nothing to anyone's imagination. I would just like to add one thing. This is a sensitive issue. It does not need to be politicized. But since it has been politicized, I would also like to draw the attention of your audience that on the one hand, the opposition, particularly the Congress party, screams from every rooftop that Chinese have encroached into our territory, despite the Prime Minister, despite the Defence Minister, despite the Home Minister, on umpteen occasions saying, in the last 8 years, under the Modi government, 1 inch bhi humne किसी को नहीं दिया है और ना आगे लेने देंगे. I want to ask the Congress, you say don't go back to Nehru, but let's be very clear, 38,000 square kilometer was handed over by Pandit Nehru to, 38,000 square kilometer of Aksai Chin was handed over by Pandit Nehru, Rahul, 10 seconds, on a golden platter to the Chinese. We allowed the Chinese PLA to destroy Zorawar Fort in 2008-9. There were more than 700 transgressions during the UPA between 2008 and 2010 alone. We allowed the Chinese to capture territory in Chabji Valley and Tia Pangnak area to the tune of 250 kilometers. We allowed the Chinese under the UPA, under Manmohan Singh, to capture territory in, Dengjok. So please don't take the moral high
Okay,
ground.
so Nasir
Narendra
Hussain,
Modi is not
the
Jawaharlal
government saying
Nehru
we were
who
ready
allowed
for
the
a
Chinese to
discussion,
get away.
we were willing to answer questions. It's the opposition that disrupted parliamentary proceedings, and therefore don't blame us. The government has nothing to hide, and it's not shying away from a discussion on what's happening at the border.
Rahul, please give me uninterrupted 2-3 minutes so that I
Go
can
on,
explain our position. One, today, as usual, for the past 2 years, 2.5 years, we have been giving notices to the government to have a proper discussion on the Indo-Chinese border disputes, transgressions, incursions that have been happening for the past 2.5 years. I myself must have given not less than half a dozen notices or more than that. Today, more than 12-15 MPs gave a notice for adjournment and discussion on this issue and also for a short notice discussion. A few others gave for a short notice discussion on 267 and 176. The government of the day should have come and said, look, in the past, in similar situations, discussion have taken place in the parliament. Let us discuss this issue. We are ready to discuss on this issue. They were not ready to discuss on this issue. They said the defense minister will make a statement, and the statement was made for about 3 or 4 minutes. We categorically, when we were protesting, it was Mr. Chidambaram who got up and asked. Apart from the LOP, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, it was Chidambaram who categorically asked whether there will be clarification, whether there will be discussion after the defense minister makes a statement. The deputy chairman and the leader of the house, Mr. Goyal, categorically said there will be no discussion, there will be only statement, not even clarification. After Rajnath Singh ji gave a 3-minute statement, we wanted to have clarification as usual that is done in Rajya Sabha. He didn't take even a single question. He walked away. He walked away from the Rajya Sabha. After he walked away, you can get the videos. You can get the videos of Rajya Sabha.
Okay,
You can
so Sanju Verma, respond to Nasir Hussain that the statement had nothing new. Chidambaram says all of what was said in parliament. Listen to me. Go one second. Listen to me and then answer. Sanju, listen to me and then answer. Nasir Hussain's argument is, now one second, both faders down. Just listen to my question and then answer. That there was nothing new in the statement. Chidambaram says everything that was said by the defense minister in parliament we already knew from television last evening, and therefore there was no opportunity to grill or question the government, get some more details about what happened. It was a very upar ka statement. Let Sanju Verma respond to that.
You know, Rahul, I simply said that Nasir Hussain is lying on national television, and look at the language used by Nasir Hussain. These people are so rattled, they are electorally vanquished and debilitated that they cannot even take the response by the BJP spokesperson on national television. You can imagine their behavior on the floor of the parliament. Nasir Hussain, first learn how to engage in a debate. We don't need certificates in integrity from you. Now coming to the most important point. Rahul, any day, I don't care about Congress spokespersons who are habitual and repeat offenders in terms of brazenly lying. I will believe the defense minister of this country. I will believe the home minister. I will believe the prime minister who says not an inch of territory has been given. Amit Shah, after coming out of the parliament, clearly said, यदि विपक्ष discussion चाहती तो मैं उधर ही उन्हें बता देता कि राजीव गांधी फाउंडेशन ने 1.35 crores चाइनीज एम्बेसी से लिया 2005 और 2007 में, ये कहकर कि ये चैरिटी का पैसा है, और बाद में हमने पूछा कौन सी चैरिटी, तो कहते हैं we took this money to develop Indo-Chinese relations. Now tell us, which political party takes money from another government and then has the audacity to demand a discussion and, does not even come clean on the fact that their so-called senior leader Rahul Gandhi was engaging with the Chinese embassy at the height of the Doklam standoff in 2017. You have still not come clean on what is in that MOU that Sonia Gandhi signed with the CCP in 2008. You have still not come clean on the fact that when you negotiated with the Chinese during the UPA, why did you not add the word existing line of actual control? If the word existing had been added to LAC, the difference in perception with respect to LAC, which is at the root cause of the problem, would not have happened, and perhaps these transgressions could have been avoided. So it's easy for you to sit here and take the moral high ground. I want an answer from Rahul Gandhi. What was he doing hobnobbing with the Chinese at the height of the
if you
standoff?
look, Nasir
Do you have a
Hussain,
response?
at the kind of response the Modi government has given, whether it is the Prime Minister himself going to Ladakh, speaking just soon after the Galwan clashes to our troops, the kind of infrastructure development that the government has done, the kind of military modernization that's been done, it's a far more aggressive response rather than the previous approach, which wasn't quite as aggressive, which kind of assumed that the Chinese will keep creeping in and there's very little that the Indian government or army can do about it. Nasir Hussain.
Rahul Gandhi, please, Rahul, please give me enough time to respond. You please don't allow the BJP spokesperson to intervene. Neither you should intervene.
Sure.
See, has the government come clean on what has happened in the Galwan Valley? Have they come clean as to what has happened on Y Junction, Depsing Plain, on Gogra and Hot Springs, Pangong Zo Lake area? Have they informed the people of the country how these bridges have been constructed there, how these villages have been constructed there, how PLA's office has been, divisional office has been constructed there, how these top towers, microwave towers have been, high frequency microwave towers have been constructed there. Is there any information to the people of the country or the parliamentarians or the parliament as to how this construction has taken place in all this area? And has the Prime Minister raised this issue in any international forum for the past 2 years? It was the Prime Minister of the country who gave a clean sheet and said there is no transgression. That is the reason why Chinese army and Chinese authorities are saying this. They are hiding behind this statement of April 2020 of Prime Minister Modi and saying there is no transgression. But then the army says now they are disengaging. If there was no engagement, why are you disengaging? So these things need to be put on white and black. They should be discussed in the parliament. Today, Rajnath Singh made a 2-paragraph statement and then he said that he will not take any question and he walked away. After he walked away, all the opposition parties walked out of the parliament in protest. Congress party and other opposition parties wanted a discussion. The government was not ready for a discussion. Government was only ready for a statement. And the convention and the precedence in the parliament is after a statement is made, there will be clarifications asked by opposition parties or any member of parliament.
Okay. Sanju Verma, Nasir Hussain says the Prime Minister should be taking up this issue with the Chinese president when he meets him. Instead of just shaking hands, the Prime Minister should be confronting Xi Jinping and taking up this issue.
Rahul, now I want uninterrupted time, just like you gave the Congress panelist. Let's be very clear. You know, a question was asked, if there was no encroachment of territory, then why the need for a disengagement? I think this is a very puerile and juvenile question, but I'll answer for the benefit of your audience. When the disengagement happened in February 2021, and mind you, Rahul, China has a border that it shares directly or indirectly with 24 nations and has a territorial dispute with over 18 countries. It is for the first time that Chinese were forced to voluntarily disengage in February 2021 post Galwan because you have Narendra Modi at the helm. Yadi Pandit Nehru hote to disengagement nahi hota. Chinese would have walked away with Galwan. Now I'll tell you why the disengagement happened. No, Rahul, now please ask this man to keep quiet.
Nasir Hussain, let Sanju Verma speak. Sanju, Nasir's favor goes down. Sanju.
Please keep quiet. Yes, Rahul. The disengagement when it happened, be it, our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar or Rajnath Singh, or even the Prime Minister, on various platforms, so whether they name China directly or whether they shake hands with Xi Jinping, we have to look at the broader picture. The one thing which clearly came out in every public statement from Indian top brass was that the disengagement happened because temporary military posts or temporary structures or any temporary dwellings apart from troops which had moved from the Chinese end beyond Finger 8, all those had to be taken back to the original position. So China went back to Finger 8 at Pangong So and India moved back to Finger 3 at Pangong So. So the disengagement happened to ensure that between finger 3 and finger 8, there was a common patrolling area where nobody would transgress. It is as simple as that. It does not mean that the Chinese enter our territory. You know what Rahul Gandhi said at a function in London, post Galwan? He said the Chinese entered 1200 kilometers within India. That 1200 kilometers within India means China would have entered Delhi. Do you even have some idea of geography? Let's be very clear that Narendra Modi has followed a policy where he keeps India first.
This is so
Narendra Modi is not Jawaharlal Nehru, who gave away India's permanent seat.
Okay, Sanju has spoken. Nasir wants to make a quick counter before I also go across to Gaurav Sawant and to General Hasnain. Nasir.
See, this is ridiculous. If the Chinese troops have not transgressed into Indian borders, why will they go back? Why will they go back? From where did they go back? They had come into our territory. They have constructed villages there, bridges there. They have set up microwave towers there. It is all there in public domain. You can take satellite images. If you want, I will send it so that you can put up on your screen there. So these are there. Why is the government shying away from this? Why is the government not discussing on this issue? Why is the government not telling the people that these areas have been occupied?
Do they not teach you basic
And you can't shake hands. You can't shake hands with Chinese premier and say that they are disengaged.
Are you a madrasa?
They have stopped talking to you. They have stopped. They have categorically said they will stop. They have stopped talking to you and they are not moving an inch from your land. That is what they say.
There was no village that was constructed. There was no marshalling of troops. There were only temporary structures.
That is there in satellite images.
Okay, I can't have this debate degenerate in this fashion. Remember, national security is a very serious issue. You don't want it to degenerate into a big political tutu-mem. I want to go across to General Hasnain for his understanding of what could potentially happen next. Do you see this as a one-off, or given the current domestic turmoil in China, do you see this as the beginning of a tense period? What I find particularly disturbing is the fact that military sources are telling us that Chinese drones flew in very aggressively towards Indian positions, and we had to actually scramble Sukhoi 30 MKIs to rebuff them. Now, that's not the kind of thing you get to hear too often.
Yes, Rahul, I seem to be getting more and more convinced that this is not going to be a one-off event. Well, it has taken 2 years and more for this intensity of an event to take place once again. And it does, and I do ascribe that to a series of perhaps other events which have happened in the last 3 or 4 months, starting perhaps from the time when the Honorable Prime Minister made the statement at the SCO summit to Mr. Putin. The statement which was taken note of by many nations in the world, by the international media, the aspect of this not being the season for war. It actually enhanced the status of not only the Prime Minister, but that of the entire country, of the nation as a whole. And India was, people started looking at India with a more serious eye as a potential, as an intermediary, as someone who could resolve problems, and the international respect enhanced. Since then, if you see, overall India's indulgence in the international environment has seen a rise in India's stature. And this is something which is never acceptable to the Chinese. The last time it happened, in April, May 2020, I was always convinced, I remain convinced, it happened because of a build-up from 2014 till 2019 in which the stature of India went up diplomatically, geopolitically. Well, I mean, I'm not indulging in any kind of political statements here. I'm just stating something which I perceive that way. This is why I feel that what we are going to be looking at in the future is not something immediate, but it will happen progressively. Series of smaller events in other areas like the central sector. Now you've seen this whole Yudhabhyas business was all in the central sector. And central sector is an area which has been generally more quiet. But we have seen patrolling, we have not seen clashes, but we've seen attempts to try and, do some kind of an aggressive establishment of your claim lines, etc. with the Chinese there. This is the next area of concern as far as I'm concerned.
Very
So,
interesting, because
I
the
do
central
think
sector
that
has
this
been
is a
quiet.
problem area.
Largely,
This is
you're
going to
saying
be
there could be a potential confrontation there as well. I want to go across right now to Gaurav Sawant, India Today's Strategic Affairs editor, who's joining us currently en route to Tawang. He'll try and get as close as possible to where the action actually took place. Gaurav, give our viewers a sense of what your sources in Eastern Army Command are saying about the current state of play in Yangtze. Has the situation been returned completely to normalcy, or is the Indian Army still on a state of high alert given what happened in that area?
So the Indian Army is on a state of alert, Rahul, and rightfully so. The Chinese were pushed back. There has been disengagement, but there are multiple friction points, and the Chinese build-up was noticed in several areas. Will the Chinese take this lying down? Perhaps not. Each time they've been pushed back, they've tried to come again. It's a major loss of face for China, given the fact that they had actually built up over time and then come thinking they will overwhelm the Indian position and occupy the strategic height that they wanted to, the strategic vantage point that they wanted to. Did they only come to touch their claim line and go back? The assessment is perhaps not. There was a unilateral effort to change status quo at the line of actual control. So this isn't something that China does routinely. This is perhaps a part of the salami slicing of Indian territory that China was attempting to do. And this India did not permit. But then this isn't the only friction point, and that is why officers I have been speaking to seem to indicate that as India's stature, and I agree with General Hasnain, as India's stature increases, as India's G20 presidency gets underway, China realizes that it has to do something to keep India down. But Rahul, if I may quickly, lessons learned from Galwan 2020, and of course, right from the friction that had started taking place at Doklam 2017 onwards, China started building up in a very big way on their own, but they haven't been able to breach India's red lines. Not at Doklam, not at Galwan, not at Pangong So. Even on Pangong So, as one of the officers I was speaking to earlier today told me, that while India is not going up to our claim line of finger 8, China too is not coming up to its claim line of finger 2, and that is why that buffer zone. So it's advantage both and disadvantage both. Similarly here, whatever India is doing in Arunachal Pradesh, which is extremely sensitive, India is ensuring that it is not advantage China any which way.
But it's also very cold at this time, Gaurav. I've been to Tawang in the winters. It is, from what I remember, miserably cold, especially as you go up the mountains. And if this particular post is at 17,000 feet, then give our viewers a sense of just how frigid and cold it will be at that altitude if that's a 365 24/7 kind of post.
You're absolutely right. -10 already at higher reaches in high altitude. This is high altitude. 17,000 feet is extreme high altitude. And that is where our soldiers are deployed. But this also is an indication, Rahul, that the Chinese soldiers, their deployment and their acclimatization is increasing and improving. They haven't been able to take these altitudes earlier, but now not only are they taking these altitudes, they're deployed in some of these altitudes. They're able to climb and fight, even if it's for a little time. They retreated because they could not take that altitude. They were overwhelmed. They were pushed back, at this altitude. But 17,000 feet, -15 to -20, and that is there at the Yangtze place. But even Tawang or Bomdila or Sela again 13,000 feet. It's drizzling here right now. A little ahead it was snowing, and in the coming weeks it gets even colder. And this is where the winter stocking is now complete. Whether it's ammunition, whether it's arms, whether it's winter clothing, food stocks, the morale, not just of the army, but even the civilians we've been speaking to in Arunachal Pradesh, extremely high, because they are very clear that they are a part of India, the land of the rising sun in India. There is no way they will let China succeed. They didn't let China succeed in 62. There is no way that China will succeed in 2022, Rahul.
You stay safe yourself. It's very cold where you are. It's even more cold where these troops are deployed. 17,000 feet for perspective. Tolling, Gaurav, is about 15,000 feet. Tiger Hill is about 18,000 feet. So this is just a little less than Tiger Hill, which is where one of the most heroic battles of Kargil was fought. So this is very, very cold. You've got the icy, chill, bitter, dry winds coming in from Tibet. So this is not the kind of weather. In any case, you shouldn't be fighting at those heights. But right now, it's the worst thing you can do. It's tough on both armies. So we have a very, very tense situation. Gaurav Sawant and Shweta Singh are on the ground. They'll be tracking this for us. Gaurav, thank you. Stay safe, stay well. We're heading into a very quick break. When we come back, Nora Fatehi accuses Jacqueline Fernandez of giving false statements in the 200 crore rupee Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scandal, sues Jackie for defamation. Details on the other side.
भैया जी हमला। भैया जी 10 गोलियां ले ले।
गोलियां नहीं रज्जा, गोली।
पर बाहर तो 10 लोग हैं।
10 हो या पूरी बस, अब तो बस 1 है तो डन है। इसको कोई वॉचो वॉच कराओ। जब वॉचो में मिले ढेर सारे ओटीटी ऐप्स एक ही प्लान में तो हर कोई बोलेगा वॉचो 1 है तो डन है।
वॉचो प्लान स्टार्टिंग एट जस्ट 42 रुपीस पर मंथ। आज ही सब्सक्राइब करें और पाएं सिलेक्ट प्लान्स पर 1 महीना कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री।
India Today Any Town Hall, a unique opportunity to interact with your Chief Minister. The first dialogue of this series will happen with Assam CM, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sarma. Send your question to indiatodayany@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 7065725404 and you may get a chance to meet and pose your question directly to him only on India Today Any Town Hall on December 14th, 2022. Taj Vivanta Guwahati. Watch it live on www.indiatodayany.in from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
इश्क ही दिसदा जेड़े इश्क च चले।
It's been 5 years since Anushka Sharma tied the knot with Virat Kohli, and on the special occasion, the actress shared some goofy and unseen photos with her husband. She also mentioned the significance of each photo in the caption. She wrote, and we quote, "What better day than today to post these lovely pictures to celebrate us, my love. Picture 1, me knowing you've always got my back. Picture 2, forever holding gratitude in our hearts, both getting incredibly lucky. Picture 3, you resting on hospital bed a day after my long and painful labor. Picture 4, us keeping fine taste in things. Picture 5, some random fellow. Picture 6, you making most of my photos unpostable with your unique expressions. Picture 7, cheers to us, my love, today, tomorrow and forever. Virat also shared a beautiful unseen photo with his wife to mark their 5 years of togetherness. He captioned the post as, 5 years on a journey for eternity. How blessed I am to find you. I love you with all my heart. On work front, Anushka will be making a full-fledged comeback to the movies with Chakta Express, in which she will be seen playing the role of former cricketer Jhulan Goswami. The actress was also recently seen making a special cameo in Anvita Dutt's directorial Kala.
Another big India-China brawl. Violent new Arunachal flashpoint explodes. India beats back rowdy Chinese patrol. Beijing gets border bloody nose. Short fight, but bigger threat. India's #1 defense team reports.
The 200 crore rupee Sukesh Chandrasekhar extortion case has taken another twist. Actor Nora Fatehi has sued Jacqueline Fernandez. Nora claims that she lost out on brand endorsements and reality shows because of bogus statements given by Jacqueline. Both the actors are accused of receiving expensive gifts from conman Sukesh.
It's a straight war between the two Bollywood divas. Actor Nora Fatehi has dragged fellow actor Jacqueline Fernandez to the court. Suing Jacqueline for defamation in the 200 crore rupees extortion case, Nora said she's unfairly being dragged into the Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scandal. Contending that her image is being tarnished, Nora alleged she is losing her reputation and endorsement deals because of Jacqueline's alleged statements. Nora also denied taking any gifts from conman Sukesh. Jacqueline's lawyer, however, was quick to rubbish Nora's charges, saying that the remarks were made in court and not publicly to cause harm.
If certain media agencies have quoted what my client has stated before the Honorable Adjudicating Authority, that is at Delhi, that is a written submission made before a particular court or a quasi-judicial official. Now that cannot be dragged out by media agencies and quoted in the public domain, because that is a part and parcel of an argument or a pleading, which is a judicial proceeding.
Jacqueline, while confronting the Enforcement Directorate, had said that she was treated differently in comparison to Nora. The actor claimed that Nora was also conned the same way she was by Sukesh, who is now lodged in Tihar jail. She also urged the probe agency to treat Nora as accused and not the witness in the case. The ED, in its supplementary charge sheet filed in the extortion case against Sukesh in a Delhi High Court, mentioned Jacqueline Fernandez's name as an accused. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
The showdown in Telangana continues as the YSR TP chief, YS Sharmila, Jagan's sister, has been hospitalized after her health deteriorated during an indefinite hunger strike. Sharmila was protesting against alleged denial of permission to continue her statewide padayatra at the party headquarters on Friday. After her health worsened, doctors rushed to the protest site and warned that she was suffering from severe dehydration. The Telangana police then forcefully shifted her to a hospital in the wee hours of Sunday, breaking her indefinite fast. Doctors said on Sunday that Sharmila's health condition had stabilized, but she needed bed rest for the next couple of weeks as her blood pressure and glucose levels had fallen to alarming levels. According to doctors, Sharmila is likely to be discharged later today. And Sharmila spoke exclusively to India Today while she was on her fast unto death. She lashed out at the KCR government. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
The court had initially given us an order to do the Padayatra. This is apart from the original permission that we had. So in spite of this fresh permission, KCR's government has denied me the right to go on a Padayatra. In protest, demanding that I be allowed to go on a Padayatra, I've taken upon myself to sit on this indefinite hunger strike. So what happened yesterday was that all my people were arrested. All the party cadre were arrested, and every police station was filled with my people. And also the police have imposed a curfew here all around this place where I'm sitting on a hunger strike.
So you heard Vice Sharmila there speaking to us here on India Today while she was on her fast. And this was yesterday, soon after which, as her health deteriorated, she was rushed out and forcefully shifted to a hospital where doctors ensured that she broke her fast unto death. The reason she's been on this protest is because she says that the KCR government is continuing to try and stifle her right to protest and for her to go ahead with her Padayatra. Permission has been denied for the same, which is why she's been holding this agitation.
A night that has gone on forever, that will be remembered forever.
Lautaro Martinez's winning penalty might have seemed a straightforward shot, but it capped off a chaotic, frantic and ill-tempered FIFA World Cup quarter-final. Netherlands had done well to take the game to penalties, but were undone by two excellent saves from Emiliano Martinez, and that was all Argentina needed.
Another great get by Martinez. Wriggling away from Ake and fiddling through a beautiful pass. It's a wonderful...
It was going very well for Argentina in regulation time, and when Lionel Messi set up Nahuel Molina's goal, it was no more than they deserved.
And the rest was simple. Lionel Messi.
And the game appeared dead and buried when Messi himself converted a 73rd minute penalty to double Argentina's lead.
World Cup semi-finals.
But an inspired tactical switch saw substitute Wout Weghorst score twice.
The Dutch have dug back in.
The second of which came in the 11th minute of added time. Yet they failed to hold their nerve in the shootout, and Argentina, who scored 4 of their 5 penalties, were through to the semi-finals at long last.
It was not his last dance. He will jump and jig jollily into the...
Sports Bureau, India Today.